The first thing I'd like to talk about is the importance of proper representation of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community in film. Proper LGBT representation is important in film because we derive a lot of our ideas and knowledge of other cultures through film and media. As Jonathan Cohen describes in his article, by allowing us to share in the lives of others, entertainment can excite and educate us. Um, and can make us imagine, think, and feel in ways we may not otherwise have a chance to experience. We expand our emotional and mental lives beyond the scope of our personal experience and participate in community and cultural life. What he is basically saying is that we identify and experience what other cultures experience through film. So, by misrepresenting minority groups such as the LGBT in film and media, we could get ideas of negative stereotypes and increase things such as homophobia. However, there are moral arguments that do kind of justify um, making films such as those. One of them would be the idea of ethical subjectivism. This idea basically says that there are no real stands on LGBT issues or any other minority issues. They're just merely opinions. There's no true ethical right or wrong when it comes to these issues. The problem with that principle is that it rules out moral thinking altogether and allows for negative representation of minorities in films, such as the LGBT. However, according to the minimum conception of morality, the misrepresentation of LGBT in film is unethical. According to the minimum conception of morality, we must guide our conduct with reason while giving equal consideration for every individual affected by one's actions. This means being impartial and representing groups in films as they truly are. Although LGBT organizations, communities, and other minorities have made progress in film and media, they are still misrepresented and stereotyped a lot in films. As uh, Kate Keegan, in her article Household Remedies New Narratives of Queer Containment in Television Movie, says that, there are an awful lot of queers on TV lately. In fact, on today's television, it appears as if our moment in the sun has finally arrived. We queers are overwhelmingly white, male, wealthy, thin, young, fashionable, and seronegative. We live in expensive urban lofts and spend our free time whipping straights into shape with our catty relationship advice and snappy sense of style. On TV, queers are everything America desires of its citizenry, minus, of course, the annoying problem of the sex we have. Queers on television are already assimilated, already absorbed into the social framework the popular media assumes for its viewing audience. And this is very true. I mean, a lot of characters in TV and films don't that represent LGBT communities don't really talk about the issues surrounding their community. Um, what she is really saying is that LGBT characters usually play minor roles in movies, such as the gay best friend, nothing more complex. They don't discuss any issues affecting the community. One of the movies that really does represent the community and their issues that surround them is the movie The Normal Heart, which takes place in the early days of the AIDS crisis in New York City. It portrays the struggles homosexuals face during the time, such as persecution for the problem, refusal of help from the government since it was deemed as a gay issue, and it also addresses many of the stereotypes that started due to the crisis. This film discusses real issues and builds these characters as actual people. I put a clip of one of the scenes where Ned, played by Mark Ruffalo, argues with his brother over these issues and his brother's homophobia toward him. In conclusion, the way LGBT are represented in film and media is important and can affect the way they are seen by society. It is important to represent the real issues involving the LGBT community because that is the best way to show people what is going on and what the community is really going through.
So in this half of the presentation, we're going to go over some poor representations of LGBT characters in film. We're going to start with Eminem in the interview.
More about the things that I fear. I get you. You know, it's like if I say something about women or whatever, I think a lot of that is more or less me just dealing with issues with, old issues with my mom or whatever. With your mother. Yeah, or when I say things about gay people, that people think that my lyrics are homophobic, you know, it's because I'm gay. When I rap about violence or, you know, sound like I'm promoting violence, I think that, just more or less because, you know, it's kind of about me, you know, confronting it. What did he just say? Wow. What did he just say? He just said gay? We're pretty sure that's true. Gay? And let's just back it up a moment. You just said that you were gay? And I'm just curious what you meant by that exactly. You were gay. I'm just a little confused here because gay can mean a lot of things. I don't know what that meaning. I like that. What the fuck just happened? Eminem just said he was gay 4 times. That motherfucker just happened. Holy shit. Eminem's gay on our show. Eminem's gay on our show.
So his character is basically used as a joke. He's portraying a fictional version of himself, and his homosexuality is funny. But using humor like that to portray gay characters can have the audience associate being gay with being funny or being a joke, which is problematic. Second character we're going to look at is Viceroy Hagep from Exodus Gods and Kings. He's an Egyptian official who's made to look really bad and portrayed so that the audience really doesn't like him. And then when the protagonist Moses discovers that he's misappropriating funds, Hagep tries to keep him from revealing that he's doing that by offering him sexual favors, and he has this bad inflection that we're made to not like. So he's portrayed as an easily dislikable villain, and his portrayal associates homosexuality with all these negative traits and stereotypes, such as having a lisp. Third character is Dr. Julia Harris from Horrible Bosses and Horrible Bosses 2. She's the boss of one of the stars and an antagonist. She's aggressive, sociopathic, a sexual harasser, and an nymphomaniac. And it's revealed in the final moments of the film that she's bisexual, and she fits negative stereotypes of being bisexual, such as being a nymphomaniac. And again, associating these characters with these stereotypes is problematic. Finally, trans erasure is a defining condition of how transsexuality is managed in culture and institutions, a condition that ultimately inscribes transsexuality as impossible. For example, in 2014, there were no characters that were identifiably transgender in any major film. So transsexuality is almost invisible in that media. And people have looked at how that influences the lives of transgender people, such as how they get health care. And we have a quote: "As patterns emerged in trans experiences that were shared, it was difficult to understand how social determinants of health, such as access to healthcare, affect the lives of trans people without understanding the processes through which trans people are actively and passively erased." And that's why this is all important. It's because it actually affects people's lives. And to relate it back to the ethical theories that we looked at originally, poor representations and lack of representation negatively affects the audience's perception of LGBT people. And from a utilitarian perspective, it's better if films positively portray LGBT characters, because it will positively affect the real lives of LGBT people.